and slid a paper across the table with $50,000 written on it. Winifred actually laughed out loud and pushed it back without even looking at me. She wrote $500,000 on her legal pad and held it up for everyone to see. Their lawyer's face went red and he started yelling about extortion while my parents just stared at the table. The insurance guy kept tapping his pen and making notes while Winifred pulled out medical bills and started reading the amounts one by one. $23,000 for the first surgery attempt, $14,000 for the cardiac unit stay, $8,000 for the ambulance that took her when her heart stopped at home. My mom started crying harder with each number. We took a break after 2 hours and I went to the bathroom to splash water on my face. My mother followed me into the hallway and reached out like she wanted to touch my arm, but I walked right past her like she wasn't even there. She started sobbing behind me, but I just kept walking to the vending machine and bought a bottle of water. Back in the room, the numbers kept going back and forth while the lawyers argued about liability and damages and emotional distress. My dad kept trying to catch my eye, but I focused on a water stain on the wall behind his head. 4 hours in, they offered $75,000. Winifred countered with $300. The insurance guy made phone calls and came back with $90. We sat there for 6 more hours with breaks every hour where I'd go stand in the parking lot and breathe the cold air while my parents huddled with their lawyer. Finally, at hour 6, they offered $125,000 plus a mutual no-contact agreement that meant we could never speak to or about each other publicly. Winifred pulled me aside and said trials are expensive and juries are unpredictable, and this was guaranteed money now instead of maybe more money in 2 years. I signed the papers. The worst part was the settlement included no admission of wrongdoing, which felt like swallowing broken glass. Winifred reminded me that money wouldn't bring justice anyway, just some financial relief for all the debt. The check came 3 weeks later, and I used $30,000 to pay off the funeral home and put aside $20,000 for therapy because I was going twice a week now. The rest went into a special account at the bank where I set up the Pia Memorial Fund to help families afford the costs of getting tested for organ donation. Dilly wrote the first check for $5,000 and promised she'd organize fundraisers through her company. 3 months after the settlement, I still woke up screaming from nightmares about the surgery day when the monitors started beeping and they pushed me out of the room. Ria kept telling me that trauma doesn't follow timelines and healing isn't linear, but I felt stuck in that moment when the surgeon said her heart couldn't take it. My cousin texted me that my parents had sold their house and moved to Arizona, which was good because I didn't want to run into them at the grocery store or anywhere else. Dilly and I met for coffee once a month to go over the fund applications, and we had this weird relationship where we couldn't really be close, but we both needed to keep Pia's memory doing something good. The support group I'd been going to grew from 5 families to 12, and we started meeting with lawyers about pushing for new laws requiring hospitals to verify consent for medical decisions. A state representative agreed to meet with us next month after one of the moms in our group told her story to the local news and it went viral. 2 weeks after that meeting, I walked back into my office for the first time since everything happened. My boss had agreed to let me work 20 hours a week, mostly doing data entry stuff that didn't require much talking to people. Something doesn't add up about these parents crying and looking smaller while still refusing to admit they did anything wrong. That's a strange mix of guilt and denial happening there. The receptionist gave me this weird half smile when I walked in, like she didn't know if she should say welcome back or sorry for your loss. Most of my coworkers just looked at their computers when I passed their desks. During lunch that first day, I sat alone in the break room and nobody came in the whole time I was there, which told me they were all eating at their desks to avoid the awkward conversation. That was actually fine with me because I needed the job for money and routine, not for making friends or chatting about weekends.